Hurricanes. Earth's way of moving a lot of energy.
Hurricanes help regulate our climate by moving heat energy from the equator to the poles, keeping the Earth's temperature stable.
Hurricanes, how do they form? We can see in this cross-section, we can see the eye of the storm where there's relative calm, but a lot of energy being exchanged, and outer rings of energy, updraft and downdraft. So what are the key parameters here? Certainly the ocean temperature has to be above a certain level. There has to be a low vertical wind shear, and the cyclonic conditions must be present at the beginning, and a steering wind and atmospheric pressure in order for this to make landfall. In this top view, you can see the swirling energy around the eye of the storm. Hurricanes occur in the South Atlantic Ocean, with typhoons occurring in the western part of the Pacific Ocean, cyclones below them. Let's have a look then at the historical trend. Has it changed? Let's review some data. In this slide, you can see that the tropical storms and hurricanes have trended since 1970 in a general non-descriptive, flat manner. There hasn't been any significant changes. If we look further at the global major hurricane frequency, we see much the same result. All hurricanes trending down, major hurricanes trending flat. Looking back on earlier times, 0 to 1000 AD, what we find is that the hurricane count was much higher than the last millennium. So no correlation in hurricanes to man's activities, just to natural causes. How does a hurricane season build?
These three factors contribute to either a strong or a weak hurricane season, each acting a little like an on-off switch. First, the El Niño Southern Oscillation's two phases, El Niño and La Niña, affect sea surface temperature in the Pacific Ocean, which then alters wind strength in the Atlantic. During El Niño years, Pacific sea surface temperatures near the equator are generally warmer than average, which drive winds that shear the tops off hurricanes, making it harder for them to form. Cooler Pacific water during La Niña years creates more favorable hurricane wind conditions. The North Atlantic Oscillation's two phases, positive and negative, describe the difference in pressure between two poles of a pressure system, low pressure near Iceland and high pressure near the Azores Islands. When the pressure difference between them is lower than average, hurricanes are more likely to form. When the two pressure systems are more intense than average, wind conditions are not conducive to hurricane formation. Further south, the two phases of the Atlantic meridional mode describe sea surface temperatures, either warmer or cooler. When the area north of the equator is warmer than average, hurricanes are more likely to form. When the same area is cooler, hurricanes are less likely to form. Together, these factors can make or break a strong hurricane season, and understanding how they interact can help better predict the number and strength of hurricanes seen throughout the season.
With this trend data, what can we say about man's emissions? Have they increased hurricanes? The debate continues, and some feel that man cannot make these significant increases in hurricanes. But this does not stop the political pundits.
Powerful storms and hurricanes buffet the Atlantic seaboard and the Gulf. Harvey, Irma, Maria, Florence, and now Michael have all wrought severe damages. According to NOAA, 2017 was the most expensive year on record for disasters in the U.S.
It is true that land-based hurricanes do cause a lot of damage, as you can see in this trend. However, when you normalize this cost with factors of GDP and building costs, what you find is that the actual total cost, or modified cost, does not trend upward. It actually is fairly flat. What we see is, from another measure, is that the hurricanes that actually hit the United States has trended downward. And also, when we look at the data for Florida, we find that there is also a seemingly slightly downward trend.
Climate change is real. It's being driven by human activity. It's happening right now. These are facts. They are not in dispute.
There is actually much dispute as to how much man is responsible, that man has little responsibility, and making science into politics simply does not work.
If we would do more on climate change, we'd have fewer of these hurricanes and other types of storms.
This is a false premise and a false promise, one that cannot and should not be made.
But this is what Mother Nature does naturally. And if there's a human influence in there, you wouldn't know it because there's so much natural variability.
So there are no trends that are linkable to man's activity in carbon dioxide. And politics are now a big part of this discussion. So what conclusions can you draw? Is this data versus politics? You decide.